Hi, my name is Emma, and let's talk spooky stuff. Hi, how are you all? I'm really excited to get into what I watched this month because I watched a lot. If you haven't seen one of these videos before, I go through my letterbox, and if you don't know, I get a lot of questions what letterbox is. I have my link down below if you just want to check it out in my bio. It will take you to Letterbox, the website. It's a platform that is run by a small business that is New Zealand owned, which I think is really cool. And pretty much all you do is you log every movie you watch and you can rate them, or you can just log that you've seen it. I find it really useful because I can see if I watched something before and then remember what it was. But I follow everyone who follows me, so if you want to check that out, that's down there. We will be jumping into that in a moment, but first, I have to talk to you guys about 31 Days of Horror. So for the last 5 years, I guess, maybe, yeah, I think 5 years. I've been doing 31 Days of Horror. It's either 4 or 5 years on YouTube. I did do 31 Days of Horror before I started YouTube. I used to log them all, I think, on my Instagram. But what 31 Days of Horror is 31 movies that I've never seen that are horror movies that I try and watch throughout October, one a day. When I created the series 31 Days of Horror on my channel, I changed it so that you guys could be participating in the 31 days. So I let you guys give me your recommendations. So every single day of October, for the whole time I've been on YouTube, I have released a video a day with a recommendation that was from you guys. The only rule is that it has to be a movie I haven't seen. And I do this because it is a reaction review. So it's just me with a vlog camera talking about what I thought about the movie after I saw it. So it's not planned out. There's not a lot of information that goes in behind it. It's just a reaction review. So I like, obviously, to pick a film that I haven't seen so I can give you a candid reaction. Obviously, I'm a little bit enthusiastic sometimes. The last 31 Days of Horror, I asked you for some feedback, and I did a couple of, I guess, like little quizzes, questionnaires, asking you about 31 Days of Horror and just getting some feedback for how it's going, because every single year I see people start really strong and get excited, but of course there's so much going on in October for everyone, so it kind of tapers off towards the end or even towards the middle. So I thought, this year, we are not going to do 31 Days of Horror, but don't be sad, because what we're going to do instead is 13 Days of Horror. So I'm going to keep this as the last portion of October, so it will be leading up to Halloween, and I will still have other content throughout the month. One of the main reasons to do this was because, you know, with things like Halloween, you know, the movie Halloween Kills was meant to come out in October, and I could still cover those kind of things while covering, you know, the 13 Days of Horror. So that was the purpose of it as well, that I could cover new movies, because obviously I couldn't fit them into my schedule because everything is pre-scheduled. And I always figure out the list of what I want to include like a month before, so you guys can grab the movies if you want to watch along. So I thought then I can incorporate new releases in with your suggestions. Sorry, I know that this is a lot of information, but that is why I chose to do 13 Days of Horror. And in doing 13 videos, not only am I going to hopefully keep you guys interested for longer, I'm also going to up the production quality and make them a little bit more interesting and put a little bit more information into them. Some of my 31 Days of Horror videos only go for 3 minutes. So because you're giving me part of your time in October, which is very valuable, I want to give you an experience that is worth your time. So I want to put a little bit more effort into each video. So even though it is only 13 Days of Horror, I want to up the quality and give you better videos, kind of quality over quantity this time. So I'm doing 13 Days of Horror. I believe it's starting the 19th through to the 31st. But I still want your suggestions. I have made a form that you can go and put your suggestions there, and that way I can share it across all platforms, and everyone gets a say. You only are allowed to do 3 suggestions per person. Last year, I had people do over 100 suggestions. It took me days to go through the lists and sort everything out. So this way it's a little bit more cohesive, and you go into this link down below and you'll be able to put in what movie you want. You can suggest 1, you can suggest 3. Just make sure that I haven't seen them before. I know that that's kind of tricky. I would suggest checking out my letterbox and also checking out my channel and just searching my YouTube channel in the search bar and see if I've reviewed it before. I understand that not everything I've ever watched is going to be available on Letterboxd or on my channel, but that is a good place to start. Okay, thank you for bearing with me. If you didn't watch any of that, 13 Days of Horror is happening this year from the 19th through to the 31st. If you want to put your suggestion in, you can just click the link down below. Okay, with all of that, we need to get onto Letterbox because I tell you what, I watched so much this month and we just need to start. Get a cup of tea, this is gonna be a long one. Okay, let's go to the start of the month. If I can get there. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, I started with, I believe I watched this on a Netflix party, which was part of my Patreon, like a perk that you get for being on my Patreon. If you do want to join my Patreon is linked down below all the time. I don't really talk about it much. It's kind of like a secret club, but we hang out a lot together. We do 2 hangouts a month, and we also watch stuff on Netflix using the Netflix party application. Anyway, I watched Open House, and that was the second time I've seen it. Not a good film. Would not recommend. It's on Netflix if you want to check it out. I then watched Lake of Death, and this was an entry onto Shudder. Yes, if you didn't see my last video, I did talk about Shudder is in Australia and in New Zealand, but I got this in PR before that, and I was not a fan. I think it was a Norwegian film from what I can remember. Sorry, I watched a lot this month. And yeah, it just kind of fell down and the characters were kind of hollow. So I probably wouldn't recommend that to you guys. I then watched La Llorona. Obviously, this is a more authentic take of La Llorona. It is about a dictator in Guatemala. And yes, it is very interesting. It starts off kind of political, but very interesting backstory. I liked where it was going because it kind of had that feel where it was so serious. But then when the supernatural elements came in, it just felt a little bit jarring. And yeah, I was kind of let down by this one. I really wanted to love it. And it was really highly praised. I think it was highly praised in Sundance. So yeah, a little bit of a letdown, but I do think it's still worth a watch. And that's on Shudder as well. I then watched Richard Jewell, which I kind of have mixed feelings afterwards about this, which thank you so much to my patrons who like had this conversation with me that really opened my eyes. This is about this is a Clint Eastwood film, which is what changed my mind, about a man who was involved in he stopped a bombing in America. Anyway, it's based on a true story. It has Kathy Bates in it, who I love, and it also has Sam Rockwell in it, who I love. But I looked into some things about Clint Eastwood, and I feel very uncomfortable about this now, which is so sad because I love Clint Eastwood as a director. I absolutely love him, and I love a lot of his other films, but now I've kind of I think you should just look into it yourself and come up with your own opinion. But I did really like this film. I still gave it a 3.5. I thought it was really well done. And always interesting to learn a new story, whether that's in a fictional way or a non-fictional way. I did enjoy the film. I then watched Sweetheart. This is part of like when I did the whole Blumhouse video, and that took forever, but I watched Sweetheart and I wasn't too impressed with this one, but a lot of people really highly recommended it to me. I think it's on Netflix in America, if I'm correct. It's about a woman who gets washed ashore on a tropical island and she needs to learn how to survive, but there's something spooky dooky going on there. It started really good, but some of the graphics really, I just could not. And I know that that's really poor taste of me, not being able to I don't know, use my imagination. But when I'm watching something visually, do I need to use my imagination? I don't know. I then watched Mercy. I talked about this in my Blumhouse video, so I'm not going to bore you. Not a big fan. I watched Don't Let Go, which I actually thought this was kind of like a hidden gem for Blumhouse, but I looked at some of the reviews, I think up here, and a lot of you guys didn't like it. Like I got a 1.5 here. This is why I like following you guys, because it's interesting to see what you guys like. It's about a cop whose part of his family dies in a really violent way, and then he starts getting calls from one of the deceased, and he has a chance to change. It's like a very future past orientated film, obviously time travel in a way. Not really, actually. It's a very interesting look at time travel from a different perspective. That makes it sound very interesting. I think it's worth a watch for sure. I then watched Like, Share, Follow, which was such a weird movie. I can't believe I'd never heard of this movie because it has like YouTubers in it. It's about a YouTuber who has like a mega stalker. That's kind of it. Would not recommend. It's silly. If you are into obsession stalker films, you might like it though, because, you know, I like that. Prey is a film, also another film about being on an island. But this guy goes there purposely. He has a life-altering event that pushes him to go into this like survival camp, and part of the survival camp, he needs to go onto an island and survive there. I think it's 3 days by himself, but when he gets there, he finds someone else on the island, which no one's meant to be there. And yes, I don't want to give away too much. The film isn't great, but there is like a twist in it, and I don't want to give away that. Curb is a great film, and I think I'm going to talk about this in an upcoming video because this is definitely a hidden gem that I would highly recommend. So sorry if I repeat myself at a later date. But this is a Blumhouse production that I thought was very underrated. It's about a woman who is driving cross country, and she deals with this awful man, and she has to survive. That's the best way I can tell you, but the way it's situated and the scenes that she gets stuck in, let's say that's a clever way of putting it, is really interesting and really different, and I really liked her. She was such a badass, and I would recommend that one. I think it's a little hidden gem. Not the best movie ever, but definitely worth a watch. I then watched Train to Busan. I watched this before I saw the second one. Have I logged to the second one? Oh yeah, a couple days later. I watched Cemetery Man and House. I did this because I did a video with Xena, who is the real queen of horror. And yeah, I wanted to talk about two films I really love. I really like Cemetery Man. It's such a weird, or Cemetery Man, if you want to say it without my accent. I love that movie. It is so weird, so strange. If you've never seen it before, it's an Italian film about a man who needs to kill. He's like a what do you call it? Gravedigger? I don't know. He's a caretaker of the cemetery. That's probably a better way of putting it. And he lives there, and every time a body comes in, somehow this cemetery is like magic, and they come back alive within like 1 to 7 days, and he needs to kill them for a final time. But it's not even about that. It's about love. It's about friendship. It's just a weird ass tale, and you need to watch it if you haven't. House is another great film that I talk about all the time. I think this one has quite a cult following though. This is a Japanese horror movie about a bunch of schoolgirls who go and stay at one of their aunt's haunted houses, and it is just an acid trip. The best kind. You need to check it out. I then watched Totem, which I believe is another Blumhouse. I can hardly remember this one. Oh yes, it was about that necklace. Oh, that was god awful. No, I would not recommend that. It's just a Blumhouse film about someone, I believe it was like their mother passed, and them dealing with their new stepmom, and their mother's spirit being around. Don't do it. I then watched The Keeping Hours, which was pretty basic. The Keeping Hours is about a couple who end up separating after a tragic loss, and then something brings them back together, aka a ghost. Probably wouldn't recommend it. If you want to watch crappy movies in the background, this is that kind of film. I then watched Peninsula, which I did a review on. I watched Deerskin, which I'm going to talk about in another video, so I don't want to talk about it now. I watched this next documentary on Netflix called Disclosure, and I highly, highly recommend this to everyone. It is about trans representation in the media, and it was so different to anything else I've seen before. It talked about like Ace Ventura and like horror movies and all different stuff, and I think that anyone would find it really interesting and really informative, and I highly recommend it. It was a really well done documentary that switched it up the whole time, and I was glued to the screen, so highly recommend that one. I watched The Secret, Dare to Dream. Sometimes people just need motivation in their lives. Do I have to explain myself? Yes, I probably do, but I'm not going to, and that's all you need to know. We'll just move on now. I watched American Satan. I watched this because I was going to include it in like my religious movies, but I really did not like this movie. I don't know what you guys think. I want to see. Oh, you got a 4-star there. I mean, this is a range, hey? This is the people I follow. That is a range. I did not like this film. It's about a band that make a pact with the devil. And the devil is Malcolm McDowell. So it's pretty funny. But yeah, the band is just like rock and roll and like, doing drugs and all that good stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It just was boring for me. Like I was bored all the way through. I then watched May the Devil Take You, and that is a Indonesian movie that I talk about in my Possession. Sorry, there's going to be Possession now. We went through Blumhouse, the end of my Blumhouse little binge. Now we're going to do Possession and religious films. Would recommend that one. I watched The Taking of Deborah Logan. I had seen it before, but I think rewatching this film completely changed my mind. I don't know what I logged it as the first time, but I really enjoy this film. If you haven't checked it out yet, it is about a documentary crew that go and cover the in an educational way a woman who has dementia, and then something else sinister is going on. I highly recommend it. I watched Peppermint, which is a revenge film starring, is it Jennifer Garner, who I love on Facebook. Does anyone else follow her on Facebook? She does baking videos. She's so wholesome. Anyway, this movie is about her loss and grief and the revenge that it inspires. Probably wouldn't recommend it to you guys unless you're into action, but it's still pretty much a basic film. I then watched The Possession of Joel Dainley, and I talked about this again in Possession. I watched The Haunted. What was this? Oh, this is like a TV movie. I thought this was going to be good. Wasn't so much. And it ends up being very much orientated with the Warrens, which is very interesting. So yeah, wouldn't recommend that one. I watched The Possession of Michael King. A lot of you guys really like this film and you were telling me to, I should have included it in my possessions video. I actually could not stand it. I like the idea and the premise, and I'm all for low budget, and giving a little bit of leniency to that. But this one, like, he is just so annoying. Towards the end, I just couldn't get into it. I like the start and I like the startup and like what it's all about, but I just could not follow it towards the end. It was just too much for me. Not too much, just too, I don't know, sappy. I don't know. It wasn't for me. I watched The Rite, which I believe I mentioned in my possessions. I watched Burnt Offerings, which is a classic, which you definitely need to watch if you haven't. It's an absolute gem about a haunted house, and yeah, you'll love it. I watched She Dies Tomorrow, which I'm excited to talk to you guys about. I spoke about this one in my like VOD coming, and I was so excited about the possibility of this film because the trailer looks amazing. It's about a woman who has this feeling that she's going to die tomorrow, and it becomes contagious to the people around her. In theory, great idea. Execution doesn't really go anywhere. It's more of a conversational piece, which is totally fine, but I don't think that it would work for a lot of people. Had some surprising cameos in the film, but I still gave it a 2.5 because I love the idea of it, and I guess that's kind of my downfall. I watched Prevenge, which if you haven't seen this movie, you need to see it. It is an amazing, amazing movie directed by Alice Lowe, but she also wrote the film and she stars in it, and my friend Kate told me she was 6 months pregnant. I knew she was pregnant, but she was 6 months pregnant in the film, like actually. So she was in this film, she stars in it, she directed it, which is like, you know, huge in itself, and then she also was pregnant, and it's about a woman who is having strange thoughts because her baby is telling her to murder people, and I know that sounds really stereotypical, but this one, it has such a spin to it, and it has such a purpose, and it's such a lovely movie. I highly recommend it. I watched it again with my patrons, and I think we all kind of shed a little bit of a tear, even if it was a silent tear. I watched Kill List. This is the second time I've seen this film, and the first time I did not like it. I saw it many years ago, and I thought, I'm pretty sure I put it on like underrated lists, but you know what? Your opinions can change on films, and don't let people tell you they can't, especially as you're growing and you're learning. Like, you just like different things, and different things speak to you at different times of your life and different phases. So don't let anyone tell you you can't change your mind about a film. But Kill List, I actually really liked this the second time. I think I'll be talking about it in a future video, but it's a UK film about a man who needs to go and kill a whole heap of people on this list because he's a hitman. But I'll leave it at that for now. I watched Spree. I did a review on this. I really liked that film. And I'm glad you guys did too. I was a little bit nervous because I knew it wasn't for everyone, but it seems a lot of you guys did like it. I then watched Black Christmas and The Hunt. I did this for a Does This Offend You? If you don't know, I do a Does This Offend You every single month, and it's me and Vicky, and we talk about anything that's like a little bit controversial. The next episode is going to be so good, and it's going to be on my channel. I'm really excited about it, and you guys will be too. But when we say Does This Offend You, we don't actually find the films offensive most of the time. It's just a way of picking out little bits in films that sometimes get lost in the overall feature and giving them a good discussion and breaking them down and chatting to you guys, because that's a huge part of it. Is it's a live show because we want to interact with you and get your opinions. I then watched The Exorcist, as you guys know. Maybe I didn't watch that much this month. I felt like that was a lot. Maybe I'll put the total down here because I'm not counting that right now. Let me know if you think that's a lot. Let me know how many movies you watch every month. I would love to know that. I then watched The Exorcist, The Exorcist 2, and The Exorcist 3. I did a video for you guys about this because I was always going on about how I'd never seen The Exorcist 3, and you guys were telling me I needed to do a video when I finally saw it. So I did watch it. If you want to check out what I thought about all of those movies, that will be over on that video. Don't mean to give so many plugs. It just so happens that I watch a lot of movies for videos I do, guys. Majority. Everything in here I pretty much have been watching for a video. It happens, guys. It happens when you do what I do. So after that, I watched Little Shop of Horrors. I did this for a Patreon hangout, and I had never seen Little Shop of Horrors before. Can you believe that? I thought I might have seen like parts of it, and but when I watched it, I was like, no, I don't remember any of this. But we did watch the director's cut, and what's really interesting is, I don't know if you know this, but the director's cut is completely different to the original and has a completely different tone and ending. It is dark. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was amazing. And it's just so funny that it had a complete different ending. And so I had some people who were watching with me be very surprised by that. So that was cool. And yeah, if you haven't seen that ending, I definitely recommend at least checking it out on YouTube. I give it 4 stars because I feel like the intent was there and it hit its purpose. And it was just a good time. I hadn't seen it before and I was still rocking around in my chair. What a fun movie, and what a good wholesome horror movie. Not really, this one was really dark, but I still feel like it's a wholesome horror movie to watch during this time. Remember, guys, if the movies you're watching are quite dark, just be really kind to yourself during this time, because it's really easy to lose track of space and time and everything good in the world. So I recommend, please go home. This is or you're probably at home for your homework. Watch Little Shop of Horrors, because it definitely made me feel a little bit more happy and just like, yeah, it kept me a little bit upbeat for the day. And then I watched Random Acts of Violence. This movie is another movie I talked about in my VODs, releases coming up. And I was excited about seeing this one. I'm not a fan at all. There was so many things in it that didn't make sense to me. If you don't know, it's about what is it about? It's about a man who is a comic book writer, and he wrote a comic book that's based on a serial killer, and then somehow these violent events start happening that are meant to be caused by the comic book. Yeah, the movie didn't make much sense. It tried to hit so many different points, and if you need to watch a video on it, if you have seen the movie, definitely go watch Nightmare Mavens. I will leave it down below because she hit it like spot on, and we had the same kind of opinion. But she also read the director's statement, which I think is really interesting and made me really angry. The purpose of the film was to make this, larger than life statement about how all horror movies are crap and all violence, and I don't know. It's awful. Like, what they intended to do is not what they pulled off. They thought that this was going to be the scariest movie ever. But it's not, and it's kind of boring, and it's kind of shitty. I think I hate this movie now. No, I don't. I gave it a 2.5. It's just afterwards when I watched Vicky's video, I was like, wow, they really, like, before I thought they were being humble, but they really out here trying to say that every other horror movie is crap and then make a crap horror movie that didn't even hit the purpose that they intended it to. So, wow, I just ranted. You got a bonus rant for free, guys. Okay, I guess I didn't watch as many as I thought I did, but I would recommend to you guys Curve. Although I'm going to do a video about it, so maybe not. I'll remind you later. Cemetery Man, House, Disclosure, which I said was that documentary. The Taking of Deborah Logan, if you haven't seen it, I do think it's worth a watch. Prevenge, for sure, if you haven't seen The Exorcist. And Little Shop of Horrors, I think, and The Hunt. If you haven't seen The Hunt, you need to watch it. And don't be so scared, because it's not what you think it is. They fooled us. But Little Shop of Horrors, I definitely recommend as a feel-good time. Okay, let's get on to TV. So I started trying to watch Dirty John season 2. I loved season 1. If you don't know, Dirty John is based on a podcast. Sorry if the lighting is changing, by the way. I have no control over the clouds right now. But Dirty John is based on a podcast about a real life case about this man who like weasels his way into this woman's life. And so they made a season 2, and I started watching this, and I got like a good 4 episodes in, and it was so boring. Like, I just did not feel it. I know that sounds really dumb to just say it was boring. I didn't like it because it was boring, but I really gave it a good shot, and I loved the first season, but I would not recommend the second season. But I'm even more interested to see if any of you guys have seen it and finished it and what you thought, because for me, it was about a woman and her struggle through life. And it's kind of showing her relationship in different lights in every single episode and things she had to sacrifice and what her relationship really was to what it looks like in the first episode. Obviously, it's going to be some traumatic event that will happen, but we haven't really got there. I kind of heard what it was. I'm just trying not to spoil it. Like I got up to the episode where they revealed what it was, but I just feel like there's no shock for me, because maybe there will be, but there's no shock because I already know what happens. Like they've expressed the incident and you know the backstory already, and there just wasn't much else happening except for like legal cases back and forth. And although that can be very compelling in this situation where it is about a divorce, I'm going to be completely honest, I just didn't find it very interesting or compelling or different, which Dirty John is so good because it's so unbelievable what happened to this woman. Like the first season, it's so unbelievable. So the second season just didn't have the same idea for me. I guess if it was titled something different, I might have, felt a little bit different about it. But I'd be very interested to see if any of you have watched Dirty John season 2 and what your thoughts are. Please let me know because I want to know. I finished Dark. I don't think I spoke about this. I'm not sure if I spoke about this last month, but I finally finished it. Season 3. What an ending! A lot of people hyped up the ending for me, and when I watched it, I'm like, oh, okay. But after a couple of days, I just kept thinking about it, and it actually was a really good ending. I'm not going to get emotional, but wow, that series is so good. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It is a German TV show about time travel, putting it very lightly, and yeah, it's amazing. You follow this kid who... he's just dealing with the most, really, and all of these different characters. And because it's time travel, you just meet people as they were as kids and as they were as adults, and see all the different things in their life and how they're interwoven into each other and how little moments change their whole lives. And it's pretty amazing, and it's really well done. And that's the end. There's 3 seasons and that's it. So it was very special, and I'm so glad I watched it. The other thing I watched is I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and this is about Michelle McNamara, who wrote a book about the Golden State Killer. So it's about a serial killer and about a woman's fascination about the serial killer. I would have to say, like, a lot of people really love this. Like, it was rated, I'm gonna look it up, what's it on IMDb? It's rated really, really high. A 7.4, okay, it's not too high. But I mean, that's still pretty good. So it's a documentary series. There's 6 episodes, they're 1 hour long. And it's just about her fascination with this killer, which is, I mean, an interesting story in itself, but I felt like it went very, very long. Like, it was just a story that almost could have been better as a documentary and like really had all the information in one go. But they really string it out over several episodes. I think it will be better if you've read the book. It'd be really interesting because it tells you the story behind the book and how the book came together. And I mean, what she did was amazing, but it just felt like very long, very drawn out, and it was just a very overly produced documentary series. I definitely think that this would have gone down really well as a documentary, but as a series, it's a lot to put 6 hours of your time into something when most of the information is available within like 10 minutes on each episode. So anyway, I'm glad it's done, to be honest, which is so sad. But if you're interested in it and in the Golden State Killer, I definitely recommend watching it. But maybe the book might be a little bit better and give you some more insight into her personal ideas, because the TV show is more about her and what happened to her because of the book. So if that sounds up your alley, check it out. Okay, that's all I have for you guys. I felt like that was really quick. I thought I had a lot more. I'm sure it's a really long video anyway. I just want to thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for 60K. Thank you for everyone who came to my live stream. If you didn't know, I fooled ya. All of those segments that you saw that were me being haunted were pre-recorded, and I weaseled my way into there, and it just worked. It worked, and thank God you guys are such good sports and were able to pull it off with me. Those who didn't know as well, like you were so good. So thank you for like having that kind of banter with me and making it possible. Thank you for 60K, and thank you for subscribing, watching my videos, giving me a thumbs up. Anything you do really supports me and helps me keep going, because I do work a normal job and this is a lot of work. You've seen how many movies I watch just for this channel. So thank you for helping me do this and keeping my channel afloat, and hopefully working towards me keeping this channel as a more sustainable option. So thank you so much for being here, and don't forget to leave your recommendations down below in that link. So it won't be comments this year. You've got to go to the link and fill out the form that way. And it's pretty easy, guys. You should be fine. And I look forward to seeing what you guys recommend. Remember, it has to be a film I haven't seen. So make sure you do a film I haven't seen. I hope you have a great day. Please let me know what you've been watching, and let me know how many movies you watch every month. I would love to know what the average is. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay spooky. Bye.